There are old tricks every farmer knows, and then there are the ones they keep quiet because they're simply too effective to share widely. This is one of those. If you've ever wondered how certain growers manage to push crops through droughts, get stronger yields with less fertilizer, and build soil so rich it practically feeds itself, they often credit some mysterious, good ground. But that so-called good ground rarely comes from luck. It comes from long-standing practices passed quietly between farmers who know how to make the land work for them instead of the other way around. And the underground mulch method, rarely discussed openly today, is honestly one of the most powerful, low-maintenance systems you can use to create a self-sustaining bed that stays moist, fertile, and biologically alive long after other gardens have dried or starved out. If you're looking for a method that has roots in both old husbandry practices and practical survival farming, this is a technique worth learning before another season goes by. Why burying mulch in the soil unlocks a completely different form of fertility. Traditional mulch sits on top of the soil, protecting it from evaporation and feeding it slowly as it breaks down. But the underground mulch method reverses the process by burying the organic material directly beneath the root zone. This moves the nutrient bank into the exact place where roots can access moisture and carbon-rich decomposition. What you get is a living sponge beneath the surface. As buried material breaks down, it absorbs water like a reservoir and releases nutrients at the same time. Farmers who used this technique a century ago understood that buried biomass holds moisture more consistently than surface mulch, especially in hot, arid regions or in seasons when rainfall was unpredictable. They would dig trenches, fill them with straw leaves or crop residue, then plant above them once the material settled. The result was a bed that held water for weeks longer than surrounding soil, allowing crops to push through tough conditions without constant attention. How to build the underground mulch system using simple layered trenches. The method starts with the right depth. Most farmers dig between 6 and 10 inches deep, enough to bury organic matter without placing it so far down that roots struggle to reach it. A trench doesn't need to be perfectly straight or perfectly even. Older growers often followed the natural contours of the land. Into this trench goes the organic material. Dry leaves, shredded corn stalks, straw, and even partially broken down compost. These layers serve as the foundation. If you want immediate biological activity, you can mix in green materials such as grass clippings or vegetable scraps. But the system works even with plain carbon-heavy matter. Once the trench is filled, it's covered with the original soil, tamped lightly and left to rest for a week or two. This allows the materials to settle and prevents the bed from sinking significantly after planting. When it's time to plant, seeds or young transplants go directly above the buried mulch zone. As roots develop, they find that rich, moist layer underground and anchor into it. Gardeners who first try this method often note that crops establish much faster because the buried mulch eliminates the early stress period when plants must constantly search for water. Why this method excels in drought conditions and poor soil. The buried mulch forms what is essentially a subterranean reservoir. In dry months, evaporation from the surface barely affects it, Even when the topsoil becomes dusty, the lower layer stays cool and damp. This gives plants a steady supply of water during critical growth phases. In areas with hard, compacted ground, the decomposition process works to open up the soil profile. As microorganisms and earthworms feed on the buried carbon, they create channels that improve aeration and drainage. The historical advantage of this method becomes clear when you look at regions where it was used. Farmers in semi-arid areas relied on buried organic matter because, well, surface mulch would blow away or dry out too fast. By sheltering the material beneath the earth, it could break down slowly without disturbance. Some survival farmers still use it to restore dead patches of soil that just won't hold water or nutrients. After a season or two, the underground mulch transforms the ground into something workable again. How to apply this with real crops and practical examples? A simple way to start is with a single garden bed or row. Dig your trench, lay in 8 to 12 inches of loose plant material, cover it, and then plant shallow-rooted crops like lettuce or beans for the first season. These lighter feeders benefit immediately from the moisture stability. If you want a dramatic test, try planting tomatoes or squash above a trench like this. Their deeper roots will chase the buried mulch layer, tapping into a season-long supply of moisture and nutrients. Many farmers notice that plants grown above buried mulch require far fewer waterings and, withstand heat far better. Another application is using this method in orchards or perennial berry rows. A narrow trench buried along the drip line feeds the soil year after year. Every winter, more leaves or organic material can be added to the trench, essentially building a continuous underground nutrient highway. Now, this becomes especially powerful for fruit trees that, really need deep, steady moisture rather than just shallow, frequent watering. Why this quiet method has remained in use among survival farmers? The underground mulch method offers something, that few techniques can match: stability. It doesn't rely on purchased fertilizers, irrigation systems, or constant management. It simply uses decomposition placed in the right location. Survival farmers keep this trick alive because it reduces dependence on external inputs and keeps the soil resilient in unpredictable seasons. The method is quiet, effective, and tremendously adaptable to different landscapes and crop types. If you want a growing system that works beneath the surface, strengthens your soil each season, and aligns with the old husbandry traditions that kept farms alive long before modern tools existed, then the underground mulch method deserves a place in your routine. If this guide sparked ideas you can use on your land or homestead, make sure you subscribe to Husbandry and share this video with others who value tried and true methods that still stand strong today.